Welcome to Craving the Heat, where desire takes the lead and every story leaves you wanting more. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments and keep up with our latest naughty stories. It had been 6 months since my divorce, and the feeling of loneliness still clung to me like a heavy fog. My name is Olivia, and once I'd everything: a loving marriage, a beautiful home, a life that felt secure. But that all came crashing down when my husband Daniel left. I never saw it coming. It was a betrayal that shattered everything I thought I knew about love and trust. He left me for someone else, someone younger, and the devastation tore through me like a hurricane. Leaving behind only wreckage. In the months that followed, I found myself drifting, unsure of who I was without him. I spent countless nights crying, in the silence of an empty house, trying to rebuild my life, piece by piece. But nothing seemed to fill the void, and I felt the heavy weight of loneliness suffocating me. I wasn't sure who I was anymore or how to get back to the person I used to be. It was during this time that my brother-in-law Thomas became my unexpected anchor. Thomas had always been a kind and supportive presence in my life, but after the divorce, he became the one person who truly understood me. He listened without judgment, offering me a shoulder to lean on whenever I needed it. At first, it was just casual. He would check in on me, make sure I was doing okay. But then it became more frequent. He would invite me out to dinner, offer to help me with the house, and we started spending more and more time together. Thomas wasn't just my brother-in-law. He had become my confidant, the person I turned to when everything felt too heavy. I confided in him about the divorce, about Daniel's betrayal, about my fears and insecurities. He always listened, offering words of encouragement, telling me that I was stronger than I thought, that I would get through this. He made me feel seen in a way that I hadn't felt in a long time. And little by little, the walls I built around my heart began to crumble. It wasn't long before Thomas and I started spending more time together, just the two of us. We would have late-night talks over glasses of wine, reminiscing about our childhoods, sharing our hopes and dreams. He made me laugh, something I hadn't done in so long. And slowly, something shifted between us. The line between family and friendship started to blur, and I began to feel a connection with him that went beyond anything I had ever expected. One evening, after a particularly rough week, Thomas invited me over for dinner. He had cooked a meal, and we were going to unwind and catch up. The night started innocently enough. We laughed, ate, and drank a little more than we probably should have. But as the night wore on, something between us felt different. The conversation shifted, and for the first time, I felt a tension in the air, something electric that I hadn't noticed before. I brushed it off, attributing it to the wine, but when our eyes met across the table, I could feel an undeniable pull, an attraction I hadn't allowed myself to acknowledge. As the evening wore on, Thomas and I found ourselves sitting on the couch together, a comfortable silence falling between us. I had been talking about how difficult the divorce had been for me, how I felt like I was losing myself. Thomas listened, his hand resting lightly on the back of my neck as he offered reassurance. I felt safe in his presence, protected from the pain of the world outside. Then, without warning, he leaned in, his lips brushing mine in a soft, tentative kiss. It was brief, but the intensity of it left me breathless. My heart skipped a beat, and before I could process what had just happened, he kissed me again, this time deeper, more urgent. My mind raced, but my body responded instinctively. I couldn't deny the attraction I felt for him, the way his touch sent sparks through me. I had never once thought of Thomas in this way before, but now I couldn't stop myself. The kiss deepened, and all my fears, my doubts, and the memories of my failed marriage melted away in the heat of the moment. We pulled away, both of us. Breathing heavily, our eyes locked with a mix of confusion and desire. I didn't know what to say, what to do. Thomas looked at me, his expression vulnerable yet filled with longing. "Olivia," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I never meant for this to happen, but I've been feeling something for you for a while now. I don't want to complicate things, but I can't pretend anymore. I didn't know what to say. A part of me wanted to pull away, to remind myself that this was wrong, that he was my brother-in-law. But another part of me, a part that had been starved for love and affection for so long, didn't want to stop. I needed to feel something, anything, that reminded me I was still capable of being loved. I don't know what to say either. I whispered back, my heart pounding in my chest. This feels so complicated. He nodded, his eyes searching. Mine, I know, but I care about you, Olivia. More than I should. And I think you feel the same way. I wanted to argue, to push him away, but the truth was, I did feel the same way. The way he had been there for me, the way he had supported me through the darkest days of my life, it had created a bond between us that I couldn't ignore. But that bond had shifted, and now it was something more. That night, we gave into the desire that had been building between us. We made love, our bodies entwined, our hearts racing as we explored each other in a way neither of us had ever expected. It was intense, passionate, and full of a raw energy that I hadn't felt in years. In his arms, I found a kind of comfort I didn't know I was looking for. It was a break from the pain of my past, a fleeting moment of happiness, but as the morning light began to creep through the blinds, the reality of what had happened hit me like a ton of bricks. I had crossed a line I couldn't uncross. I had betrayed not only my marriage, but my family. The guilt began to gnaw at me, eating away at the small sliver of peace I had found in the night before. Thomas and I lay in bed together, the weight of our actions hanging between us. I didn't know what to say, how to apologize for what had happened. I didn't know if I should regret it or if I should embrace it. My heart was torn between the man who had become my safe place and the man I had left behind, the one who had betrayed me in the most painful way imaginable. I don't know what to do now, I whispered, my voice shaky. I can't keep living like this. I don't want to hurt anyone else. Thomas held me close, his fingers gently tracing the curve of my back. Neither do I, Olivia, he said softly. But I can't pretend that what we have isn't real. I've been falling for you, and I'm not sure how to stop. I closed my eyes, torn between the need to run and the desire to stay. The weight of the situation was suffocating. I had never wanted to be in this position, never imagined that. I would be the one to destroy everything I had worked so hard to rebuild. But in that moment, I realized that my life had become a series of compromises, choices made in desperation, in the search for something to fill the emptiness. The days that followed were filled with guilt, confusion, and the constant question of whether I had made a mistake. I spent time avoiding Thomas, unable to face what had happened. But the pull between us was undeniable, and despite my attempts to distance myself, I couldn't deny that my heart still longed for him. And then, one night, Thomas showed up at my door again. He didn't say a word, just took my hand and led me back into the apartment. This time, there was no hesitation, no questioning. We gave in to the passion that had been building for so long. It wasn't just about the physical connection anymore, it was about something deeper. Something that neither of us could walk away from. As we made love, our bodies entwined once more. I realized that no matter how hard I tried to fight it, I couldn't escape the feelings I had for Thomas. In his arms, I found not just passion, but a connection I'd been searching for. And in that moment, I knew that no matter the consequences, I would never be the same again. The line between right and wrong had blurred, and I couldn't go back to the life I once had. And so I let myself fall into him completely, knowing that, despite the consequences, I'd found something I never expected, something that felt more real than anything I had ever known. I woke up the next morning, feeling the weight of the events from the night before settle in my chest. The room was still, the sunlight creeping in through the curtains, casting a soft glow on the space we now occupied. I glanced over at Thomas, who was lying beside me, his breathing steady. The reality of what had just happened hit me with an overwhelming sense of guilt and confusion. I had always prided myself on being the person who never crossed lines, who never allowed herself to be consumed by momentary desires. But here I was, lying next to my brother-in-law, someone I had trusted, someone I had seen as a safe harbor. I had let him in, allowed him to become something more than just family. And in doing so, I had betrayed everyone: my marriage, my family, my own morals. As the minutes passed, I felt a whirlwind of emotions take over. I could still feel the warmth of his touch on my skin, the way his hands had held me the night before. The lovemaking had been intense, passionate, but also gentle, something I had longed for in the years of my marriage that I hadn't realized I had been missing. But the pleasure, the comfort, the connection, it couldn't overshadow the guilt that was now eating away at me. I slowly slid out of bed, careful not to wake Thomas, and went to the bathroom. As I splashed cold water on my face, I looked at myself in the mirror, trying to reconcile the woman I'd once been with the one I had become overnight. I was a woman who had let herself fall into a forbidden connection with the one person who had been there for me when I needed someone the most. I had convinced myself that Thomas was the one person who truly understood my pain. And yet, now I was staring at a reflection I didn't recognize. I heard Thomas stir in the other room, and for a moment, I considered running, leaving everything behind. But as much as I wanted to escape, as much as I wanted to hide from the consequences of my actions, I knew I had to face the truth. I had crossed a line, and I needed to understand what this meant, not just for me, but for the relationships I still held dear. When I returned to the living room, Thomas was sitting up, his eyes already on me. There was no shame in his gaze, no regret, only a calm acceptance. He had always been the more composed one, and yet now I felt as if he was somehow the one holding it all together. "Olivia," he said softly, his voice steady but full of tenderness. "I know this is complicated. I don't want to hurt you, but I don't want to pretend anymore either. I care about you. More than I should." His words were like a balm to the fire that had been burning inside me since I woke up. But they also added fuel to that fire. The tension between us was palpable, and I could feel my heart racing in response to his confession. I had already known deep down that this connection was real, but hearing him say it aloud was both comforting and terrifying. "I care about you too, Thomas," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "But this ... this changes everything. I can't just pretend it didn't happen." Thomas nodded slowly, his eyes soft with understanding. "I know, I never wanted to put you in this position, but I can't keep pretending either. I'm not asking you to make a decision right now, but I need to know that what we felt wasn't just a momentary lapse. I need to know if you feel the same way about me." The question hung in the air, heavy and impossible to ignore. Could I admit it? Could I face the reality of what was happening between us? I thought back to everything: my failed marriage, the years of emotional neglect, the loneliness I had felt. And then I thought about Thomas, how he had been there for me in the aftermath of my divorce, how he had made me feel seen, heard, and wanted again. His presence, his care, it had started off as a friendship, but it had grown into something more. Something undeniable. "I don't know what to say," I said, my voice trembling. "I'm so scared, Thomas. I've spent my entire life building a family, a life with someone else. But now I feel like I'm losing control of everything." "You don't have to have all the answers right now," he said gently, standing up and walking over to me. "I'm here, Olivia. I've always been here, and I'm not going anywhere. Whatever happens, I'll be here, and we'll figure it out together, but I can't do it alone. I need you to be honest with yourself, honest with me." His words reached me in a way I hadn't expected. For the first time since my divorce, I felt seen again, not just as someone's wife or someone's mother, but as a woman who deserved to be loved for who she was, not for what she could give. I took a deep breath, my hands trembling as I reached for him. "I don't want to hurt anyone, Thomas. I don't want to ruin what's left of my family." "I know," he whispered, pulling me into his arms, "but we can't keep living in the past. We need to be honest with each other. This may not be the easiest road, but it's the only one that will give us peace." As he held me, I realized that I couldn't keep running from the truth. The truth was that I had found something in him that I had been searching for all along, something real, something deep, something that could give me the emotional fulfillment I had craved for so long. And while the consequences of our actions loomed over us like a storm, in that moment I knew that I'd made my choice. I pulled away slightly, looking up at him with tears in my eyes. "I don't know what the future holds, Thomas," I said, softly, "but I know that I need you. I can't deny that anymore." His expression softened, and he kissed me gently, his lips warm and comforting against mine. The kiss was tender, full of promise, and as it deepened, I felt a rush of emotion flood through me. The love, the longing, the need, it was all there, raw and undeniable. For the first time in a long time, I felt truly alive. The days that followed were filled with uncertainty, but also with a newfound connection between Thomas and me. We spent more time together, slowly navigating the complicated web of emotions we had found ourselves in. The guilt was still there, but it didn't overshadow the love that was blossoming between us, but life wasn't going to let us off that easily. As much as I wanted to embrace this new beginning with Thomas, I knew the road ahead would be filled with challenges. There were still the questions about my family, about the consequences of our actions, about what would happen if anyone found out. But in that moment, all I could think about was him and how much I needed this. How much I needed us, and maybe, just maybe, love could find a way through the mess we had created. But for now, all I could do was hold on to what we had found and trust that, together, we would navigate whatever came next. Our passionate connection wasn't just about desire. It was about something deeper, something that had begun to heal the wounds of the past and build a future we both wanted. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was living for myself, and that, in itself, was worth everything. As the weeks passed, the complexity of our situation became more apparent, but there was something undeniably beautiful about the way things were unfolding between Thomas and me. Each day, I found myself growing more connected to him, not just physically, but emotionally. We shared our hopes, our dreams, and the vulnerabilities that we had kept hidden for so long. It wasn't just a temporary escape from my broken marriage. It felt like something that could truly last. The guilt still lingered, though. Every time I looked at Thomas, I was reminded of the betrayal I had committed. I hadn't just betrayed my ex-husband. I had also betrayed my own sense of morality, my values. There were moments when I would wake up in the middle of the night, consumed by the heaviness of what we had done. But then Thomas would be there, his arms around me, his voice soothing away the fears. "I know you're struggling with this," he said one night as we lay in bed, tangled in each other's arms. "I can see it in your eyes. But whatever happens, we'll handle it together. I'm not going anywhere." His words, as comforting as they were, couldn't erase the doubts that gnawed at me. Could I truly build a future with Thomas? Was it possible to move beyond the guilt and the consequences of what we had done? I didn't have all the answers, but what I did know was that when I was with him, the world outside faded away. He made me feel valued, cherished, and for the first time in years, I felt alive. As time went on, I began to open up to Thomas more. I told him about my past, my failed marriage, the emotional void I had felt for so long, and the pain I had buried deep inside. He listened with a level of understanding and compassion that I hadn't experienced before. He didn't judge me for the choices I had made. He simply accepted me, flaws and all. That acceptance was something I had longed for in my marriage, but had never truly received. One afternoon, as we sat in a quiet cafe, Thomas looked at me with a serious expression. "Olivia," he said, his voice soft but firm, "I know this isn't easy for you. But I think we both know that what we've started isn't just about physical attraction. There's something deeper here. I care about you. And I think you care about me too. I'm willing to go wherever this takes us. But I need to know, what do you want?" His question struck me like a thunderclap. What did I want? Could I truly see a future with Thomas? Could I let go of the past and embrace a new life with him? I took a deep breath, the weight of the decision pressing down on me. I don't know, Thomas, I confessed. I'm scared. Scared of what this means, scared of what we've done. But I know that I can't keep living in the past. I can't keep running away from what I need. Thomas reached across the table, taking my hand in his. His touch was warm, reassuring. Then let's move forward together, he said, his voice steady and full of hope. We'll take it slow, we'll figure it out, but we're in this together. And in that moment, I realized that I was ready to face the future, even if it was uncertain. I had spent so much time living in fear and guilt, but with Thomas, I saw the possibility of something new, something real. Over the following weeks, we continued to grow closer. We spent more time together outside of our secret moments, getting to know each other in ways that felt natural and easy. We went on long walks, shared meals, and talked about everything from our favorite books to our childhood memories. With every passing day, I found myself falling deeper for him. But even as our relationship blossomed, the reality of our situation loomed over us. I knew that our connection couldn't remain hidden forever. Eventually, someone would find out. The thought of facing the consequences of our actions was terrifying. I wasn't ready to confront the people in my life who would be hurt by what I had done, especially my ex-husband. The idea of losing the trust of the people I cared about was something I hadn't fully come to terms with. One night, after spending the evening together, I found myself standing at Thomas's front door, unsure of what to do next. My heart was racing and my mind was filled with conflicting thoughts. Thomas came up behind me, sensing my unease. "Hey," he said softly, "you don't have to make any decisions right now. We'll figure this out. We're in this together." I turned to face him, tears welling up in my eyes. "But what if we can't fix everything? What if we lose everyone because of what we've done?" Thomas cupped my face gently, his thumb brushing away a stray tear. "We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Right now, all I know is that I care about you, Olivia. I want to be with you no matter the consequences." His words, his touch were all I needed to hear. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I wasn't alone. I wasn't just a woman who had made mistakes. I was someone who was loved and accepted. Flaws and all dot, the days ahead were filled with difficult conversations. I eventually decided that I needed to tell my ex-husband about my relationship with Thomas. The weight of keeping it a secret was unbearable. It wasn't just about the guilt. It was about finally being honest with myself and with the people I cared about. When I told him, it was painful. My ex-husband didn't understand, and there was a lot of anger and hurt on his side. But through it all, I stood by my decision. I had made my choice and I couldn't go back. I wasn't sure what the future held, but I knew that I couldn't keep living in the shadows. As the weeks turned into months, things slowly began to settle. Thomas and I faced the challenges of being in a relationship that had started under complicated circumstances, but we navigated it together. There were moments of doubt, of fear, but there were also moments of incredible clarity. We had something real, something worth fighting for, and as I stood next to him one evening, watching the sunset from his balcony, I realized that I had finally found the happiness I had been searching for all along. It wasn't perfect and it wasn't easy, but it was ours. I was no longer defined by the mistakes I'd made. I was defined by the choices I was making now, the love I was embracing, and the future I was ready to build with Thomas. "I love you," I whispered to him, my voice thick with emotion. "I love you too," Thomas replied, his arms wrapping around me as we watched the sun dip below the horizon. And in that moment, I knew that no matter what had happened in the past, no matter what mistakes I had made, I had found something worth holding on to. And with Thomas by my side, I was ready to face whatever came next. As the months passed, life with Thomas continued to evolve. The path we had chosen wasn't without its challenges. There were moments when doubt crept in, and the weight of the past seemed unbearable. The consequences of our actions, the hurt caused by the secrets we had kept, loomed over us. But with each passing day, I learned to trust again, not just in Thomas, but in myself. We had built something new, a foundation based on honesty, trust, and love. I was no longer defined by the mistakes of my past. I had taken the difficult step of confronting my fears and taking control of my future. And with Thomas, I found a kind of peace I hadn't known before. There were still difficult conversations to be had, still people in our lives who struggled to understand the choices we had made. But through it all, Thomas and I stood together. His support, his unwavering belief in me, helped me face the world outside with confidence. One evening, after a long day, Thomas and I sat together on the couch, quietly reflecting on how far we had come. There was no dramatic moment, no big declaration, just a simple understanding between us. "I never imagined this," I said softly, leaning against him. "I never imagined that I could feel this way again." He kissed the top of my head, his arms tightening around me. "I know, but we're here now together, and that's all that matters." In that moment, I realized that the road ahead would still have its obstacles, but we would face them together. The past was behind us, and the future, though uncertain, felt full of possibility. For the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. The love I had found with Thomas was real, and I wasn't afraid of what the future would bring anymore. We had built something beautiful, something worth fighting for, and as the days turned into years, I knew that whatever challenges we faced, we would face them together, stronger than ever. The past no longer defined me. It was the choices I made now and the love I had in my heart that guided me forward. And with that, I understood. The love I had with Thomas wasn't just about passion. It was about healing, growth, and creating a future that was uniquely ours. The mistakes of the past faded into the background as we moved forward, hand in hand into a life filled with love, trust, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow.